All right. Welcome to Clozer Cult podcast. I'm your host, Alma Merrill. Today, today. We have on today Mr. Boyd Brown. Go ahead and speak in that microphone right there. Say hello.
Hello, Alma. Glad to be here.
So Boyd Brown is an absolute dynamic human being who I have only ever heard of throughout the years and as a reputation. And you and I never met. So you'll want to put that right close to your face there. Just pull that in. There you go. Okay. So you and I met at an event called The Evolution Project up in the mountains. And the first time we met was like legit met was like this.
Yes, our first probably 4 minutes together was gazing into each other's eyes.
We were gazing into each other's eyes.
Interesting experience.
It was interesting. But here's the interesting thing about it. We did this thing, this method thing, I guess, where they had us, the host had us look just directly into each other's eyes and not say a freaking thing to each other. Yep. But man, I feel like I learned so much about you from that experience. I mean, it was pretty dynamic. I mean, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And I feel like I learned like the unspoken like truth about somebody. If you just stare at them in their eyes, what you kind of learn about somebody is pretty dynamic and pretty fascinating. So. Yeah,
it's set up for the weekend, and obviously we had additional conversations. And same thing. I knew of you by reputation, of what you've done around. Heard very positive things, but that was the first time we ever spent time together. So
yeah, it's cool.
Cool opportunity.
So I appreciate it, man. I honestly I feel like our relationship started out on a good note, and I appreciate kind of who you are and who you've been throughout the years. And here in the Salt Lake Valley, you're an absolute freaking icon. Absolute legend. You're like, I was unaware of that. No, yeah.
No, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I've been at it a long time, and my reputation is something that's very important to me. So hearing you say it, I mean, I appreciate the compliment, and it's something that we've worked hard to create a reputation over the years.
Well, and in reality, in your Keller Williams business, you have led thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people, many of whom I absolutely love and cherish in my life. And many of whom, I've known for years and have done nothing but rave about you and your business and your leadership accolades and things like that have almost basically dominated the valley here in Utah for years. So
yeah, it's been fun. We've been playing in the same pond and have mutual respect for the brokerage you've been in, the quality of agents you've surrounded yourself with and been involved with, and same with us. So I think the combination, we've had a pretty big impact on the market, and that's really cool.
Utah's an interesting market. It's interesting because there is so much competition in our marketplace amongst brokerages, but I feel like our culture has enabled us to be more intertwined. Would you say that as well?
Yeah, I think so. There's definitely competition, although I think there's some parallels in the organization you've been involved in and ours.
Yeah.
And mostly just that we put such a high value on developing the agent.
Right.
Helping them grow, helping them to really be professionals and be able to increase their earning capability.
Right.
And I think the differential on that is there's also a lot of our competition, if it's a discount brokerage or some different shop, they don't necessarily have that same ideal. So I feel like that creates a real respect amongst our industry locally of the companies like yours, like mine.
Right.
And there's some other great companies out there too that I feel like are really committed to growing the agent.
Well, and I don't think I've told you. I said I don't think I've ever told you this, as if we've known each other forever. But I don't know if I told you this or not before, but I always said if I wasn't with the organization I was with, I would be with Boyd Brown's organization. Cool. And so, and that was not even knowing who you are at that time, but you've maintained such an incredible environment that your reputation precedes you. So today, I really want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk about who you are, where you came from, Why real estate? What made it amazing for you? And then before that, I really want to know here. I woke up to this. This was my first thought in the morning.
Okay.
And I couldn't control it because it was just in my mind.
Okay.
They always say you can control the first thought in your mind, but not, you can't control the first thought in your mind, but you can control the second, third, fourth, and fifth. Sure. Well, I literally was waking up to this thought that I didn't control.
Okay.
And the question was, what did you do before real estate? What did you drive? What did you do before real estate? Where did you live? What did you do before real estate? And then after you kind of succeeded in real estate, how did some of those dreams and some of those things come true for you?
That's a big question. So real estate's been my only real profession. So before real estate, I was in college.
Okay.
I tended bar. I worked construction.
You were a bartender?
Yeah.
That's freaking cool.
Yeah. I went to school in Boston and had a gig tending bar right across from Fenway Park. And it was a lot of fun. The cash
I imagine
was
it would
for
be,
a college student. And,
right.
Turns out it's a great way to meet women, and it was a very, very highly social event.
Right.
Although I learned quickly that I didn't want to be slinging drinks for a living.
Right. Really? Why not? What's what?
I mean,
not a conducive environment for growth.
It would have been a different. Yeah. I'm 50 now, so it probably would have looked different had I spent my whole career in that bar. But so I didn't really have a profession, and I got into real estate on accident. I really thought it was an in-between gig. My intention, I moved to Utah after traveling around the country with the idea that I would get a job for about a year and go back and get my MBA, like immediately go back to school.
Like back in Boston?
I didn't have a plan of where I would go back to school, but I just thought, let's take a year off from school. But I really felt like I wanted to pursue an MBA or business degree as the next step for me.
Okay.
And my last semester of college, I started leasing apartments. So I'd moved away from the bartending gig because I spent a semester abroad, and I came back. Instead of going back to the bar, I got into leasing apartments with a friend of mine from my fraternity.
Like subleasing?
No, it was just in Boston, all the student housing turns over September 1st, or most of it. So my job was to take guys I knew from college, show them apartments, and lease them an apartment.
Okay.
And so I did that for basically 6 months. And
was that like commission based or
completely commission based? So we would get paid. Generally, we would get paid a full month's rent, and I would split that with the brokerage.
Okay.
So, and we didn't get paid like when I was tending bar. I would get a stack of 20s when I left, and on the rental deal, I didn't. But I was saving up all that, so I basically got one payday September 1st. Which was the money I used to travel around the country.
Wait, like one payday a year?
Well, most of the leases I did were executed September 1st. So as I was working and putting these leases together, there was no revenue.
It was a big savings account.
Yeah, it was a big savings account.
Oh, that kind of doesn't suck.
Well, yeah. So I wasn't spending it.
You weren't burning it, yeah.
So I took that money September 1st, and we traveled around the country for 4 months. A friend of mine, same thing. We were looking for a place to spend a year before I went back to school. And so real estate really wasn't on my radar. I was just looking for an in-betweener job. And when I interviewed for a job in Salt Lake just because I was feeling guilty about not interviewing or not looking for work. I wanted to tell my parents I was doing something useful. So I went in, and real estate was something I had a little comfortability with since I'd just done it for 6 months. And so I signed up. I said yes. I was so excited. I called my parents. I said, I got offered a job. And they're like, are they going to pay you? And I'm like, actually, no, I think it's commission based. So I got into it just like that. I mean, I was an easy sale. It sounded exciting, but I never had the idea that would be a career.
Right.
Even my first 6 months, I got a job tending bars so I could afford, to put gas in my car and become a real estate agent.
During the time you were learning how to earn.
Which was cool because I would make a couple $100 on a Friday night, and I got 2 free meals at that bar during the week. So that kind of helped. And
you can almost live off of 2 meals a week in college, right?
Yeah. And so I was single. I didn't have a lot of debt, and it was a pretty easy deal for me to ramp up. And I see a lot of people getting into real estate now. if they're getting in later in their career and they have the family and a lot of debt, it's a higher hurdle for them to get over to get them started.
Right.
And really, I had very little obligation, low debt, so it was easier for me to get started.
Nice. So how many years total then that you've been in real estate? Like total?
This is 27 years.
Holy cow.
That was 1995 when I first got licensed in Utah.
1995. Okay, cool.
So when you talk about what I did before real estate, I mean, I had some menial jobs and things I did getting through college, but this is the career I've been in.
This is like you're a lifer, man.
I am a lifer.
Wow. So tell me about your business now then. What is your business like now, your organization, agents, that type of thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So
I'm an owner now, man. I don't manage anything. I don't really know what's going on over there. No.
I do a lot of things. I just have such a passion for real estate. I love all parts of it. And I've been involved. I started in sales, and I always had at the core, I am an owner. I like owning stuff, and I like building stuff. So I got into investing in real estate early in my career, which I'm really fortunate about. I'm very passionate about that. I like owning income properties, and I've continued to build a portfolio. But after several years of being in the brokerage and selling, I got into ownership. I was part of starting some Keller Williams franchises here in Utah.
You're like, and that's being somewhat modest because you basically started Keller Williams in Utah, didn't you? Like
there was a group coming in. I was one of the first partners. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So you were like the pioneer for Keller Williams.
I was a minority partner for the first one that we opened in Fort Union.
Okay.
And then
is that the same? Is that still in the same office?
It's still called Keller Williams Utah, but it's moved offices, and that one, the ownership on that one has transitioned. I bought that franchise back.
Okay.
I was a minority partner years ago, and then I was out, and now I'm the majority owner. I bought that back recently.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it is kind of cool.
Yeah,
kind of coming full circle. So after doing that, we started to open. We opened one in Salt Lake and Sugar House. We opened the one out in Riverton, South Valley.
Okay,
and I got involved in the
that's where,
office.
Let's see, the one in Riverton. Is it the one in Riverton where like Rob Adams and those people are at? Okay,
it's actually,
that's a nice office.
Now we're in South Jordan. We're right at the entrance of Daybreak.
Okay, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, yeah, because you did move there just a couple of years ago, right?
Yes,
like 3 years ago or something. Okay.
And I also got involved in the Utah County one. I bought that one as a fixer-upper in the 2008 mess.
Where like Brad Morgan and Dan Kennedy and some of the other
and that's
legends.
Turned out to be a lot of fun. I really thought I was just getting in and out of that one, and Utah County has exploded. There's some terrific agents down there, and that's been really very rewarding.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work at first. So our organization now spans 4 of the Keller Williams market centers. A little over 1,000 agents, and last year I think we were about $3.5 billion in sales.
Wow!
And just under 8,000 transactions.
Holy cow!
So it is.
Wow, man, that's pretty freaking. That's like market domination.
Well, thank you. It's honestly, I just feel like I've been putting one foot in front of the other. When I was early in my career and I was involved in some coaching and some visioning, I made a 10-year plan when I was in my 20s that I wanted to own a real estate empire.
Wow.
And I don't know why it just stuck with me, that language, and I put some other goals around it. And it was just something that was kind of driving me forward.
Is your LLC Boyd's Real Estate Empire or
no?
No.
No, and I'm pretty private about that. I never said that because I think there's some negative connotation about that, but it was a compelling thing that was pulling me forward.
Well, I'm glad you're sharing kind of some of this stuff, like we learned the other day, and you maybe have heard that before, but that which is most sacred is most universal.
Yeah.
And, I think a lot of people can relate to that story and that moment, kind of that defining moment of like, I'm going to have an empire.
Yeah.
And it just spoke to you, and it made an impact on you to drive you.
So I would say while we were putting the vision together and I was aligning with the right people to build this, I don't think I ever spoke out loud to a group of people saying, "Hey, I want to go build a real estate empire."
Right.
It's like, we want to do something. We want to be an inspiration. We want to get in business with the right people. we want to really create cool businesses here. And the biggest thing is create opportunities for other people. And the thing that I've found is that becomes attractive. If you
Right.
talk to somebody in terms of, let's get this huge opportunity that you can play in and we can all do better. I mean,
because
that has been the magic.
Talking about the numbers and the money and the growth, and those are all very attractive things to hear. So I'm glad you're sharing that. It's impressive. Those numbers are amazing and impressive. But in reality, it only lasts so long if you're just looking at the money, right? It's the influence that causes more of a drive.
Yeah, and I want to back up a little bit, because it is, when you say like, oh, those numbers, that's impressive, and it almost feels uncomfortable to me to take the credit,
Right,
because I feel like I played a certain role. I
Right.
have a visionary type of a role,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like the one thing I like creating and building, and I can throw a vision out there. And it has taken some really talented people to buy into my vision, and in many cases, smarter, better real estate people to be able to make this thing happen. So
You certainly didn't
act
do
like
it alone,
I
right?
built this thing. If it was Boyd Brown Real Estate, it would be probably 5 or 6 people.
Right. Right.
So it's almost feels awkward for me to take the credit, because I know how many unbelievable people on the path over the last 20 years have been involved in building that.
And I think there's a lot of people that have taken your vision and your leadership to heart, and because you've done it for so long, you've been able to really bless a lot of lives in that process by having the vision and leadership, because not everybody has the vision. And sometimes, there's been times in my business and in my life where I had no vision, I had no drive, I had no goals, I had no why. When we go through these cycles of life, of divorce and kids and tragedy and deaths and things like that in your life, sometimes those affect people in a high level. And in order to maintain through those things, you have these leaders like you and my broker, George, and some other people that have just been amazing leaders that have vision through the difficult times. And so thank you for having that. I know a lot of people that you have served in this industry because of your vision. So,
and it's interesting you say that, because over the years, obviously George and I have just a huge amount of respect for what he's done. And so like, even in my organization, like I don't always have that vision. Like I don't always have that energy. I have the ups and downs, just like you talked about. Everybody does. And so the important part is to have other leaders in your organization that buy in and get that vision, and then they can become the energy for me. Like there's times if I'm worn out on the operations, or the market is fatiguing me, or just go through a difficult part of the process in the business, like going through COVID and managing that as sort of the head of an organization, and thinking about all the things that we had to
adjust,
manage through at the initial was really hard. It took a lot out of me, and yet I knew as a leader I had to show up with that energy. Like I didn't have any choice, and yet it wore me out.
Let me ask you this: when COVID started and everything was uncertain, did you ever think that it would actually turn out to be a better income market than what we anticipated with COVID?
Not initially, no way. And I think that's just so much how our life is. No matter what happens to us, if it's outside of our expectation, we assume it's going to be bad.
Because I thought, man, this is going to crush us. Like this is going to crush us. And in reality, it was the best financial years of my life so far.
I don't know that any of us could have seen that coming. And as a leader, I just knew when the crap was hitting the fan, that the one thing I had to do is show up. Like I didn't have the option for me to hide, like being not there, just being at home, or hiding behind this thing and waiting for something to happen wasn't an option. So showing up was the most important. I said, none of us know how this thing's going to turn out. My face has got to be there at the office, reassuring the team and letting them know that we were going to be all right. Even if the economic was a complete crap storm and we didn't get through it, things would change, whatever would happen. And then interestingly, we were ready for whatever was there, and it turned out, as you said, much better than anyone would have expected. I mean, it was 60 days of, oh crap, how are we going to handle this, and all that stuff, to, oh my God, there's so much business, we can't handle it.
It was fascinating how people almost got bored with sitting at home, and they just said, you know what, I'm going to go freaking make my life better. Human nature is I want to grow, and if you're not growing, you're dying. And that human nature kicked in during COVID, I think, and people just said, screw it, let's do it. Like Richard Branson says, screw it, let's do it. And let's just build and grow our lives. And that's really what kind of happened in the real estate industry here.
Yeah, and I think that happened for a lot of people, and not just our industry, but the opposite happened for a lot of people too. And that was hard for me to watch. Like I have family members and friends that had a different experience. They got the fear and everything just froze them.
Lost their jobs, and their industries changed and froze.
It just changed people's mindset, and it was just really hard to watch because it was such a divide. Some people took the attitude, like you said, is let's just go do it.
Right.
I'm not going to sit here and watch the news for 3 years. And made great gains in their business or their portfolio or whatever they were doing, or with their family. Even the amount of stuff our family was able to do, the travel and stuff, was incredible during COVID. And then there are some people that just use that as an excuse, or because of the fear, they got out of the market and got passed by so much economically and emotionally. And that's hard to see some of that.
Right.
I still have some agents on our roster that I'm like, come on, man, we got to get you back.
Come on back. You were kicking ass, and you need to get your brain back.
Remember how awesome you are. Let's do this.
Now, you mentioned you got to get the mindset going. Tell me this: what's been like your greatest mindset support? Is it a person? Is it a book? Is it a way of thinking? What's supported your mindset through some of the difficult times like that? Being a leader of so many freaking people.
Yeah, it's a good. I don't know that I have any one guru. At different times, I've had different ones. I would say,
who's led you back to yourself?
Probably Tony Robbins.
Tony, yeah.
I mean, he had such a huge impact on me as a young professional, and as just life decisions. So I have such positive emotion connected to the Tony Robbins experience, and I can plug into 10 minutes of a podcast or watch a little bit of Tony, and it just gets me, it just fires all that stuff up. And so that's been a big one. But over the years, I've used different coaches and mentors. And I think, like, to me, growth, progress, I need that. And progress means fulfillment to me. So I can't I can't listen to the same music over and over and over again.
Right.
I can't just listen to Tony Robbins.
You have to have variety.
So I've plugged into a lot of different things over the years, and I think that's helped. And I really do. I'll either read positive books or listen to podcasts or something, and just get that positivity in my mind. And usually, in a combination of the mindset stuff, anything that I'm learning new things and I feel like I'm expanding and growing, that fires me up immediately. Where I get flat as if I get bored, if it's just the same story over and over.
If you were to tell an agent what's more important, is it mindset or is it skill set? What would you tell them?
Only can have one, or where would you start?
What trumps the other essentially? If you were starting, because for me, mindset has always trumped skill set. Yeah. Like I feel like I have a really high level of skill, but without my brain in the right place, like with Tony Robbins and refocusing yourself and listening to something that gets your brain off the bullshit that's in your head, the drunk monkey that's yelling on your shoulder. But for you, is that it? Is it mindset?
Yeah, I think it's mindset. I go back to, again, in my probably 21 years old, I read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Right.
And the whole premise of that is the mindset. Like if you can conceive, if your mind can conceive it and you can write it down, then you'll start to believe it.
Right.
And
then you'll start to achieve it.
I think for me, having that impression young and having mentors telling me you got to put a big why out there, have a goal. And we go back to, I made the comment to you about I had this goal to build a real estate empire. Well, I had no business saying that when I wrote that down. I honestly didn't. I mean, right. I was there was a point early in my real estate career, and I remember this vividly, is that I was dating my now wife, who was making $11 an hour as a assistant at our real estate brokerage that I was working at.
Okay. So you've known her for...
I met her when I first moved to Utah.
Okay.
And I was about 4 or 5 months in, and I had won some award as like the top agent of the month that month for either a couple listings or something. And I was dead broke. And I borrowed.
So many times I've had that. They're like, man, you have 35 listings. I'm all, yeah, they're all sitting on the freaking market. I am not rich. Yeah.
I borrowed $200 from her to make my car payment.
Wow.
And it was one of those moments I was like, man, I got to do something different. And so it wasn't that much after that in the progression that I said, I want to own I want to build a real estate empire. I want to own that. This is what I want to be. So going back to your question, it's the belief. I mean, the mindset, I had to get that first. And part of that is if I was thinking bigger, if I wanted to have those bigger goals, I had to get the skill set to match it. Because at the time, I didn't have the skills at all.
But mindset and consistency, it trumps skill all day long, right?
Yeah. And again, skill, I don't want to diminish that because once you make
it is
your
important.
decision,
I mean, 90% of what I teach is skill, but there's several things that I've learned that even though I teach skill, you have to have I teach a lot of skill set. I mean, obviously there's some mindset thing, and that's why I bring in people like you. But I've always known that if I couldn't be consistent and have a good mindset, that none of my skills were going to do anything for me anyways. Yeah. It's like having a degree and not practicing.
Yeah, there's a lot of skilled people that aren't using it because their mind gets in their way. Yeah. And I think that drove me, the mindset and being able to keep moving that. But I talk to agents, if you're not willing to make the commitment, if you don't get the skills, then you're not going to get, like, you can throw it out there. I want to make $1 million, but if you're not willing to take the skills and to do the activity and be consistent. We have one of my dear friends and best partners ever, Charlotte Thomas. I don't know if you know her.
I've heard her name.
And at one point in the REO business, she was probably the highest producing single agent in the country. I think we closed 360 or 370 transactions for her in like 2009. And she did it with like just a team of admin. She's the only licensed. Like, she is a legend, and to me, someone I always looked up to.
Yeah, I've definitely heard her name.
And she's retired now, and she is doing great. But agents would come to me and be like, man, I want to make Charlotte money. I'm like, great. Beat Charlotte to the office in the morning.
Right.
And stay till she leaves and do that for like a year.
And then do everything that she does while she's there. Yeah.
And almost always they'd be like, yeah, what else you got? Like, that's what I got.
You got any medication, any pills I can take?
Gotta be something easier.
So you're telling me that it's more than just knowing this stuff. It's showing this stuff.
And you've got to have the mindset. And people need great coaches like you to remind them of their mindset. And for me, I've always had a coach. Like, we started with the Mike Ferry organization, and I've had coaches at every step of my career. And the value of that was two things. One, I'm investing in myself. Like, writing that check is saying, gosh dang it, Boyd, I believe in you and your mindset, where you're going to go. And I'm committed enough that I'm writing a check and I'm going to do this.
Right.
But the best coaches just reminded me of what my vision was, what my mindset was. And if I would show up on a call defeated or burned out or tired, the best coaches would get me back to where's the positivity? How are we going to move forward? Remember when you were the most fired up when we were making these plans? What were you passionate about?
Why were you, what were you
willing to do it? Now get back to that guy and take, grumpy or tired Boyd out of this equation. We got shit to do.
Tell me this. We've talked about mindset. We've talked about discipline. We've talked about skills. How much has gratitude played into your vision? How much is the gratitude of the past and the thing where you came from and where you started, some of those really difficult moments? How much has gratitude played into your success in real estate?
That's a great question. From a spiritual standpoint and relationship, gratitude is everything and has really changed it for me. I think one of the challenges guys like you and I have, and I see a lot of young guys, is we're driven to strive. We want to have goals. We want to be better.
Right.
And one of the challenges is that creates some dissatisfaction. Like, there's always that. It didn't matter if my goal was to go to 5 transactions, 10 transactions, whatever the dollar was. By the time I got there, I was dissatisfied and I wanted to go.
Felt like I could have done more. Yeah.
Or you would look around and go to a seminar and some guy in a panel did what you're doing faster, quicker, and made it seem easier.
In 30 days, he did what I did in a year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to be grateful for where I was in the process and to give myself credit for it. And that's been part of maturing as a human. And I think I've probably gotten more of that in the last 5 or 6 years through some coaching I'm doing and mindset, to be like, just really enjoy the things you have. Like, all I ever wanted when I was a young professional was to own a bunch of real estate. Well, now I own a bunch of real estate. And so I'm like, God, it'd be nice if I owned a bunch more real estate or different real estate. And yet when I really look at the goals that I had or I wrote out of my wildest dreams in my 20s, that's what my life is today.
Wow.
And the fact that I could ever show up dissatisfied and not grateful is like, it's just stupid.
Yeah.
And so I've really, and again, I think that's part of getting older, but so the gratitude has been really important. And when I'm in a bad spot or need to get back to mindset, the quickest thing is, and I think Deepak talks a lot about that. Tony Robbins does. A lot of these spiritual teachers will talk about that. No matter how dark it is for you, if you start and just list out 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for, write them down and think about those things. I mean, almost always shifts your mindset.
What are your gratitudes? What are your, if you were to say your top 3 gratitudes in your life that drive you right now, what would that be?
Man, it's starts with my kids, my family.
How many kids do you have?
I've got 2 girls.
2 girls.
And we're empty nesters, but when I think about...
So you're a girl dad like I am.
I'm a girl dad.
I have 4 daughters, and to me, it's just like the best freaking gift on the planet.
Yeah, it's been awesome, and so that's it. I've been married to my wife now for, she's one of the first women really I met in Utah, which I say.
What's her name?
Kind of funny. That's Kim.
Kim.
And we've been blessed with a great marriage. I'm so grateful for
So
her.
is she your next gratitude?
Yeah, it probably all together is just the group of 4 of us. And then I'm grateful for my mentors and the people who come before me, and a lot of that includes my family, but also people I've learned from in real estate. I've had some really smart, awesome people be willing to share in my life. And when we were up at the Evolution Project, with the other experience we did was thinking about gratitude is when we were in the tub, the freezing water, doing freezing,
which was crazy. Just before you go into this, I'm making this like I'm scared of this water, this tub, right? And it's probably like 8 degrees or something like that. And that's like my biggest fear was hopping into that freezing cold tub. And being candid, it actually wasn't as bad as I thought, first of all. Second of all, when you hopped in just after me, like a couple guys after me, he hops in and he's just like smooth. He's that guy, right? You're like, what the F, dude? Like, he goes in, he hops in, he just slithers down into the ice. It's like he's getting into a warm bath, cool as freaking cucumber. Like,
mind over matter. And, to be honest and admit it, it was a little bit of a cheat. I went through a Wim Hof. I did the tub experience a few months ago, so I knew that I wasn't going to die, which was helpful. So in there, though, the gratitude that I had when you were seeing me look like a cool cucumber, I was thinking about my grandfather, so that's the gratitude I have for mentors. And he was just a huge mentor in my life and had such an influence. He was just a very giving, generous,
Your
and he was a
grandfather.
sales guy, entrepreneur. And I just was sitting there thinking about starting with my grandfather, but the list of all the people that have had such a positive impact in my life. And, you bring up gratitude, that changes. I don't care if you're sitting in a tub freezing, you can think about gratitude. It can make you smile.
Oh, dude, that was one of the better things in that environment for me was that tub. And being candid, if somebody said, what was your favorite part? Number 1, it would be the moment in the tub. And as you saw, I had quite a transformation in that tub and released a lot of shit that I was carrying around for a lot of years. And, it was a very sacred moment for me. So thanks for sharing that with me.
Yeah. That is cool. And it's amazing once you make the decision how quickly you can change or something like that. It takes years and years and years to get to the spot, to get ready. But, some moment like that can just
instantly.
You.
Yeah. So like Tony Robbins says, how quick can you change? Just like that.
So those are the first 2 gratitude, and the third is just my health, and I think that's one of the things.
This guy is freaking ripped, by the way. Everybody's getting in the bath and we're all flabby and dad bods, and freaking Boyd pulls off his shirt. I'm like, damn, bro, you're ripped.
And I appreciate that. And I do work hard on it, but it is part of,
part of your disciplines.
Part of my deal is as we get older, we have some friends that have some medical stuff, and you never know when that's going to come. So I am just grateful to have the energy and vibrancy to do the things I want to do. And again, I don't take that for granted. So it's something I'm real grateful for.
Yeah, I can see where that'd be a huge gratitude. Wow, that's awesome. So what's next? What's next for you? Like if you were to say, all right, this is the next plan, this is my next level, this is what I want to do, what would that be?
Yeah, I love that question. I've been thinking a lot about it because it's turning 50 was a big, it's sort of a nice middle point. I intend to grow to be 100.
Right. I do
That's my
too.
plan.
Yeah.
And so I'm like halfway there. And in
Nice.
my real estate career, in rough numbers, I'm
Bro, you don't look
25
a
years
day
into
over
this.
49, by the way.
Yeah,
So you look great.
So it's, those vegetables are paying off. But it occurred to me when I was sitting there planning on what's next. I'm like, man, we've accomplished some stuff in the last 25 years. And basically I started not knowing a damn thing about real estate,
Right.
about leadership, about business development. And now I actually have a little bit of money. I have some resources. I have some expertise. So it's like, what's possible for the next 25 years is incredible. You know, I
Right.
really think about that. And so I want to continue to have a big impact on people and develop leaders, and just I want to be able to connect with the next generation of entrepreneurs and real estate people. And I don't always know how to speak their language, but I'm committed to learning how to do that so I can be the most valuable in that space.
Well, and like when we were doing that I don't know, what do you call it? That thing where you and I were staring at each other. We
Yep.
didn't have to know much about each other. We just kind of felt and understood each other, you know? I think that was a really interesting perspective because now, like when I did that project, and I actually had Brian Hurd on here the other day who created the Evolution Project. And I was telling him, I'm like, dude, I didn't know shit about people until that moment when you and I had that exchange. It's like, man, how surface have I been for so long? And I feel like I'm pretty good at like eye contact and communication and things like that. I have freaking taught classes on that stuff, you know? But it wasn't until that moment when I realized I'm not going deep enough. I'm not learning enough about people, and I'm not seeing them deep enough for who they maybe are or what they've done.
Yeah, and I think that's a realization I had a couple years ago. I'm like, man, these dang young kids aren't listening to me. They don't want to. But I realized I had become that old fogey, and I never wanted to be irrelevant in our business or in the industry.
Right.
And I remember dudes who were running brokerages that were just, they were stuck in the era before that, and I could
Right.
never relate to them. And I never wanted to be that guy. And I caught myself with some of these young guys in their 20s who are they're gonna do their business their way. And I'm like,
right,
you can't do it that way. Here's how we did it, back when I was a youngster.
That's how we're doing.
And I'm like, you got to learn how to get, connect with these guys. And maybe it is gazing into their eyes, but just understanding who they are. And so I have some work to do there.
Yeah, I don't know that the gazing in the eyes is the greatest method for everybody, but I sure learned a lot about myself and, what I'm missing with other people.
Yeah. So that, and I think expanding relationships is a big part, but the thing that drives me as far as a business is I'm now building a development company. I've been involved in land development.
Did that start with the Orem building? Was that kind of one of your first things that made you I'm going to do a development business?
No, but that moved me forward on building things. So
Okay.
I've been involved in land development. That's part of because I never really wanted to compete with my agents. So I've been out doing land deals for the last 20 years.
Okay, yeah.
And it's been a real comforting spot to be because our top agents, I'm not out listing
You're
and
not
selling
competing
houses.
against
I'm
their
not competing
listings,
with
yeah.
them. So it felt authentic to me. And I've always enjoyed land and commercial. So I've done that. And the Orem, and we built those two Keller Williams buildings at the same time. Those were the biggest.
Orem in South Jordan?
Yeah,
right.
and in Daybreak.
Okay.
And so those were 20,000 square foot office buildings.
Yeah, they're
so
nice too.
Built those about the same time. And previous to that, I built mostly duplexes and residential stuff. So that really ignited the spark because I was already doing the land thing. And it's interesting that I've treated the development over the years as my second or my night job. Well, I've been focused on building these real estate companies.
Right.
And I am so passionate about it. I just love the creation part of it. I like going to a piece of ground and thinking about what we can do. So that is where my focus is. I'm going to continue. Our businesses are really set up. They're self-managed. I've got great leadership teams, and I want to continue to have an impact there. But I am focusing on putting together a development team and really expanding what we're doing.
That is awesome.
On that. And
so that's kind of the next horizon then is development for you.
Yep, absolutely.
Man, that is so cool. What a killer life, man, that you've kind of created, and what an amazing story you have in that. I mean, 27 years in real estate. There's not a lot of people that can say that are 50. You know,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that'll say that are like 70.
Yeah.
But man, you did start this as from infancy, huh?
Yeah.
How old were you when you did that?
22 years old or something like that. I mean, I
Okay.
just graduated college, and like I said, I
Gotta do
did
the
get
math,
licensed my senior year of college, so I had it's not really relevant to my career, but I was leasing apartments to college buddies
Right.
in Boston. So whether you count that or not, but I mean, I was 21, 22 years old, probably 22 when I first got licensed in Utah. So that's been the only job or profession I've known.
What would you tell a new agent if they're just starting right now in a market that's shifting? Everybody's uncertain. I'm not uncertain. I know what's going to happen. I've been through the market before, but where so many people are uncertain about the changes in the marketplace. I'm a brand new agent. I just got licensed. I'm coming out of school. I was hoping to jump into this crazy killer market. What would you recommend that they do?
Burn the bridges. Just get that confidence, get with a mentor, get with a coach, call your shot and go for it. And there is so much negativity or naysayers that are on the sidelines. But there's also, as you and I know, inside of the organizations we've been in, there are some guys that are just crushing it right now, guys and gals. And there's abundance. There's so much business. So be careful who you listen to. Like,
Yeah.
if you're new, go find some dudes that are doing, and women that are doing way more business that you want to get to, and those are the people to have conversations with.
Those are the people to seek a mentor from, right?
There's I don't care what organization you're involved in, you don't have to go very far outside of your circle to get people to tell you can't do it, or
Right.
the market's
Or to put
crappy,
fear in your mind.
go buy a donut or go get a cookie. You know, it's not worth the struggle anyway. And make sure you get associated with a great coach, you know, like yourself, or an organization that's going to inspire you and move you forward, because you're going to need that. And
yeah, like your organization, like there's in my opinion, if you're here in Utah, there's basically 2 or 3 organizations that are just so dynamic that it's like, if you walk in the door and actually do what they say, you'll have a high level of success.
Yeah. And don't resist. And in my first office I worked for, there's some positive things that came out of that. I had a renewed passion of investing. That
Right.
Kyle Miller, who was my first broker, he owned a bunch of real estate, and so he helped me with that. And I met my wife, so it was a great experience, because
Life happens for you, right?
But there were some people in that office. You know, my first experience as a new guy, there was this group of negative ninnies that were making no money, and it was like their job to come up to the new guy and talk him out of being ambitious. And
It's like the Glenn Ross scene, right? Where they're
totally.
like, F this. Yeah, the rich keep getting richer, you know? And it's like, no, dude, freaking.
No,
The leads are weak. You're weak.
Yeah, coffee's for closers. But it was, even in that office, having Kyle as my broker, and there were guys that were doing business. I just had enough sense to go seek out the guys doing business and listen to them, and not, because the people that were negative and trying to talk me out of doing what I was supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
they just felt, because they weren't doing it themselves. And
Right.
so they didn't want some new guy to come in and start kicking ass.
Freaking, yeah.
So their whole mindset is branded around mediocrity or loserdom, whatever it is.
Right.
And so if you ask me for the new guys, like, don't get around that. Like,
Yeah.
figure out a way.
Stay the F away. No matter how cool they profess themselves to be, stay the F away from the negative individuals. Yeah.
Because, and it's a tough, is sales. There's plenty of negativity and rejection. And so you don't need to multiply that. I mean, it's
Right.
There's going to be some challenges getting into it, but if you believe in yourself and you're around the right people, what an awesome industry. Like,
Right.
it's changed. It's not the same industry you and I joined, but
Right.
literally the opportunities I have seen. I know guys that make literally millions of dollars a year, or have built these empires, these businesses, and portfolios based on commission income that
Right.
they did in real estate.
It's like Brian Burnett down in St. George. You know him,
Mhm.
right? Remember
Yep.
Brian? He used to be with Mountain Land Realty, and kind of grew from there, and earned his wings from there. And then he went down to St. George and started his business. But man, that guy does 3 point whatever million a year. I mean, after
Yeah.
3, I mean, who knows what he does? Like
Yeah.
3.5 or 3.2. After 3 point whatever, you're good, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
unbelievable. And he does it based off of prospecting and commission sales.
Yeah. And it's, even if you don't want to go to that level with a team, I mean, and you and I both know,
Yeah.
I mean, couple years in real estate, you can get to a spot where you're making $300,000-$500,000 GCI.
Right.
It's a pretty good lifestyle.
Right.
And when you think about what other position, like, and Mike Ferry said this years ago, or maybe it was Tom at one of the events, he's like, if you want to make at that point $250,000, that's executive money. That's like being the executive of Zions Bank here in Utah.
Exactly.
And it says, we're talking about real estate. Like, you have to hear no a few times. You have to get up and call some for sale by owners. Like, is it really, compared to what you'd have to do to become the executive of Zions Bank, is it really that hard?
Right.
And so
as
I've
far
always
as schooling
kept that
and
mindset.
intention and hours and being subject to a boss every day that tells you what to do and how to do it, man, I would much rather do the real estate route than the Zions Bank route.
Yeah. Well, me too. And I think that's how we resonated with it. I think that's part of it. New when you get in, make sure you do resonate. And I tell people, learn to fall in love with some part of this business, because it's still work, and not everyone's going to love.
Yeah, and you're not going to love every aspect of it. But,
and that's called work, but stick through it, because if you do it long enough, there'll be parts of it that you love, and you can, that will feed the passion and let you get better at it. And the better you are at it, the better you get paid. I mean, that's just the way it goes.
Right. Dude, thank you so much for being on, man. This has been honestly a treat. It's just a treasure to have you on.
Likewise.
It's a gift. I feel like I connected with you really well our first meeting, and I want to keep that relationship going and that friendship going throughout the years.
Good.
And
well, this is a great way to get new subscribers. I'll be listening in. So
there you go.
I appreciate
hey,
it.
we'll at least get one, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll see.
How about you? Honestly, before we do the party shot again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, but I'm curious for you, what's your driving? What's the next 25 years for you? I mean, we had a little bit of conversation before we started this about some things you're working on, but what gets you up in the morning to think about the next 20, 25 years of your life?
This is the Boyd Brown Show today. So, no, I'm just kidding. No, I appreciate you asking that, because, for me, and I think for a lot of people, sometimes you have moments in your life of transition, and defining moments that you kind of go, all right, what's next level for me? Where am I guided to go? Where do my passions lead me? Because at some point, making the money isn't the goal anymore. Once your bills are paid for and your investments are happening and things like that, it's not actually always about the money. And so I've kind of passed through that realm to where the money doesn't have as much value as money had to me before. And I think the next step for me is growing an environment and a culture through the Clozer Cult that brings people together like this, where you can have conversations with multiple coaches, trainers, closers, different industries. And then the next step for me, I guess, is to really follow my passion with that. And being candid, I don't know exactly where that's going to go. And like I said, a lot of people have their whys. What I learned for me is that I can't always determine a really strong why. A lot of people are like, oh, it's my family, it's my kids, it's my whatever. Look, those are the things that I have passion for and I have love and gratitude for. My why, my next purpose, sometimes I'll go with something small. And I think this is the way with brand new agents too. Maybe I just revert to the basics. Is I just want to have that next car, or I want to have that next whatever to drive me to my next why. Because sometimes the why have a mission. You have a purpose. And so living the purpose, whether or not it's profitable, really fulfills your mission, and you can kind of move forward. So the next 25 years, I definitely see myself getting a little bit more into what kind of, the investing in commercial and, those types of things as far as investment aspects are on it from a business level. But what drives me and what I'm really passionate about, I think, is what has driven you for a lot of years, which is I want to see individuals succeed. I want to see them go from, I can barely pay my freaking bills. I mean, you can maybe tell I have a passion about this. I can barely pay my bills. I have to find the change in my couch to put gas into my tank, to now I'm the hero for my family.
Yeah.
And we've actually accomplished something great together, and we're growing now our empire.
Yeah.
And to see people do that. I mean, I've watched people come into our organization, and I've never held really I've never accepted, I should say, a leadership position in the Everest organization, where my brokerage is, Everest, Central 21 Everest. But I've always guided, helped, and trained and coached there, more from like a passion level than from a compensation level. And when I see people go from, dude, I just quit my job. I went all in, like you said, burn the boats, quit my job. I'm just going to do real estate. I believe in myself. I want to be that guy that when somebody believes in themselves, that I say, I believe in you. You can do it. You're making it happen. Do you see how far you've come? Do you know how much you have progressed? Look back a year and where did you get to? Look at what you have now. You would not have dreamed of having that 1 year ago, because I think it's those small little steps for so many people where they go, how do I even quit my job? You know, what am I going to do? It's security, right? Look, a job is not security, right? The hourly pay or the salary, excuse me, the salary that they give you is what they give you to make you forget about your dreams. The passion that you have inside of you, they want you to forget about that. They want you to numb it down and go to work for them so they can have their dreams. So don't go for the salary. That's where they send you to make your dreams die. Go for your passions, your goals, your future, your drive, the things that cause you to excitedly wake up in the morning. Like this morning, man, when I woke up, I was so stoked to come in today. I woke up early. I was like getting ready. I was like, dude, when is this? 1:15 can't come fast enough, you know? Like,
you know why? And it's not, I would challenge you that it's not because I'm here. It's because you're exactly what you're talking about. You're in your purpose, you're in your mission, and you're more in that unique ability of where you want to go. And this is, I get it when I talk to you. And as a coach, what a cool thing that's the thing you're so passionate about, is reminding people and inspiring them how great they are and giving them that feedback. Hey, we can go. And because you become an inspiration and you have a huge impact on people. And I wish you well with all that. And I can feel the passion when you get into talking about affecting other people and helping them grow. I mean, you're in your unique ability, and congratulations. So
thank you. Yeah.
Thanks,
hopefully I answered your question. Part of that is I have no freaking clue what 25 years is going to be like right now. But the other part of that is, hey, I'm passionate about this other aspect
but
of
isn't
everything.
it for you and I, isn't it exciting to think about whatever it is in the next 25 years, we get more say in where we spend our time than we did in the first 25 years of our career. Because
Totally.
there's, like you said, some part of this, we're working for somebody else or doing it part of someone else's dream. And I think the second part of a professional life is, okay, now I can step more into really who I am, what I want to do, and be that. So
right. Yeah.
I'll be watching you,
Not
and
always.
let's keep each other on track to do that.
I appreciate it, man.
Okay.
Dude, Boyd Brown. Woo! Thank you to our studio audience for being so quiet. And thank you guys for watching and listening to Clozer Cult. Again, thank you, Boyd Brown, and for being here and your time. And I know it's very valuable. So thank you for taking the time. And again, my name's Alma Merrill, and this is Clozer Cult. Join us next time, and go ahead and like us, subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. We'll see you guys next time.